Welcome back to the Rewired Gamer, episode 5. This time, we're going to talk about something that I get asked a lot about. We all know that we can do better. We can each do better. The questions I get are often asking me, how can I do better? How can I be better? Today, we're going to talk about reaching to be better.
I hope our fans are ready for a wild ride. Juggernaut or not, we're here to kick some ass.
If you say you just can't take any more, all you're really saying is I just don't want to go any higher.
Failure is not the opposite of success. It's only part of it.
And you kept fighting, and you kept fighting, and you kept fighting. That's all I ask from you guys ever.
Welcome back to the Rewired Gamer. We got Ronnie Doss on the line again today. Sorry for some of the audio on the last one. If you're following along on YouTube, I think I've got my tech headaches behind us. So today we're hoping it's going to be a little better. How you doing, Ronnie?
What's up, bud? Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. You know, we had last week off, but we're back on the horse, and I appreciate you coming and hanging out with us today. And, you know, we do this show to try to help the gaming community. My heart really sincerely goes out to so many people that reach out to me with a plethora of questions on a multitude of topics. We're going to dive into some real specific topics from time to time, like work ethic and burnout, like last week. Then we'll have some shows that are just about being better and doing better and achieving what you set out to do. And the name of today's episode is Reach for Better. And Reach is an acronym which we can hopefully empower people that are thoughtful enough to follow this series because they want to do better. They want to become better. Hopefully Reach can empower some people with some tools. What do you say today, Ronnie?
Yeah, man, for sure. I'm pretty clear. Everybody wants to do better. Like that's just my take on anybody that's a human being, is that we all want to get better in some way, even when people may act like they don't want to be better. You know, it's like that kind of becomes
right
a character they play, pretending like they don't want to be better because maybe getting better is harder than they anticipated that it would be. But I think we all have something that we want to reach towards, get to, that would cause us to feel like our life is working in some way and that what we're doing is significant. So I'm excited about this conversation today, but I think it's going to be our best episode yet for sure. But I know it's going to empower people, hopefully inspire some people. And looking over what we talked about, I'm already inspired. So
fantastic.
No matter what, we're good. Let's do it.
We're going to win either way. All right, let's dive right into it and bring the juice right away. Reach for better. I've got my outline up here on the screen, Ronnie, and REACH is an acronym, R.E.A.C.H. And let's dive right into the R. Reinvent yourself. Release old stereotypes. So the R in REACH is reinvent yourself. You're taking notes at home. All you have to do is write out R.E.A.C.H. And hopefully these will be some tips. Obviously not all encompassing, but I think REACH is pretty powerful. And if you activate some of these into your life, you're going to be much better off. Let's talk about releasing old stereotypes and refining the image of yourself.
Yeah, bud. So, you know, this past weekend, my wife and I and the kids, we went up to the mountains here in Arizona. It was a nice little getaway. I know you had a little rest for yourself last week, but up early watching the sun come up, man. I was like up at 4. Well, actually it's 3:45. Did a nice workout.
Dang,
I know, dude.
3:45. Good,
dude. You're supposed to be like in the mountains, chilling. I was supposed to be relaxing in the mountains. Right. I was like, no, baby, I'm trying to conquer the mountains. No, but I went up there, you know. So I was up though, man. I was watching the sun come up, and I was just that word reach came to me again and again. I was like, you know. When I'd say right now, Jabby, I think you'd agree with this, probably everybody listening, it seems to be a very kind of volatile time. Like there's a lot of stuff happening. Maybe it's just because it's an election year. I don't know, right? Like I don't get into all that, but it seems like there's just so much kind of negativity out there, so much noise, so much distraction. And, you know, I was thinking about, I just kind of had this little visual that when you're walking down the staircase and do you ever feel like your legs are kind of getting out from under you, falling, you know, losing your balance? First thing you do is like you reach over to the side and you grab something, hopefully give you a little bit of stability, right? And so I think right now, you know, a lot of people are reaching for things to give them some what they would call stability. And, you know, my mentor used to tell me, he's like, Ronnie, stability is an illusion. He's like, you know, stop reaching for stability because a lot of times, you know, we think that we're going to get to this place that one day is stable. But in fact, the world is always changing, very chaotic, lots of things going on. So instead of just reaching for something for stability, which I do need, I think there's certain things we need to give us some stability, values and so forth. But reaching forward, even through times of difficulty and striving for something more, I think it's so important, especially now, because if you're not reaching forward and finally the dust settles, let's say, going through a difficult season and the dust settles, if you haven't reached forward, the dust settles, but then you realize that you've settled also. Like you've wasted all the time that could have been used during a time like during a pandemic. Right. 6 months. We thought this might be just a few weeks. Wound up being 6 months now. It's like, well, what do we do? Well, if we're just reaching to the side to hold something, I'm just hoping to get through it. Well, that's okay on some level, but you got to keep kind of reaching forward.
Right.
And so for me, as I was thinking about this, Jay, I was like, in being willing to create change through chaos, through difficult times, I'm willing to reinvent myself, which means I'm willing to stop continuing to allow an old emotional state run me that it seems like I've memorized. Like you memorize these emotions about yourself. So when you hold this picture of how you look, you're like, oh, this is how I always feel. This is how I'm always going to feel. This is the way my life's going to be. And then you believe that so much because you felt it so much that then you become it. And then you get to be right. And you're like, see, I told you this is how my life was going to go. And it's like, well, maybe instead of just doing things how you've always done them and holding to what you've always held to, maybe it's like, nah, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to let go of that just for the day and pretend like I'm reinventing myself to see what could be created today and see what I could step into to produce a different result.
Yeah.
And so reinvention creates a different result, and a result produces a different interpretation. Like when you see a different result, and then that creates a different way of thinking. And then from the thinking, you feel certain things. And when you have thinking and feeling, that's your reality. And so the reinvention creates a result that then becomes a reality. If you want a different reality, you understand, you got to be willing to reinvent your personality and self.
And reinvent yourself sounds easy. It's 2 words, reinvent yourself. But it's a little more work than that, right? So,
it is like,
if we're talking about releasing your old stereotypes, let's be really specific about that. What are some examples of stereotypes we have for ourselves? How do you release them and then move into the next stage, kind of refine the image of yourself?
Yeah, I'm always in a bad mood.
Right. That's like, stereotype of yourself.
That's right. I'm always in a bad mood. Everybody, how about this one, Jay? Everybody knows how I am.
Right.
I'm always always the critic. I'm always the negative one. Yep. I'm always the one. And it's like, I get it. Like there's certain tendencies, right, to have a certain slant towards certain things. But, it's amazing how much you overpower things. It's like, when people have children, they're like very selfish. We can be very selfish. And then you have kids and you start going, oh God, I got to put somebody else first. And then the next thing you know, it becomes second nature to think about your kids. And it's because you practiced something new. And so in the reinvention of self, it's just the willingness to go, hey, I've always said this about myself in a way, and I know what it feels to be that person. So today, what if I was not going to be that person today and really work to create it? You know what I mean? And instead of just allowing that old memorized, it is very memorized, Jason. It's very memorized. Your attitude is very memorized. And so it's like, well, if I think of myself, I think about how I looked yesterday and a month ago, and then back, when I first went to school and back when first time I ever did a sport, first time I know what all that looked like. So that's probably going to be me forever. And you memorize stuff versus imagining stuff. And reinvention is really about imagining. It's imagining something different and getting a picture of that. You know what I mean? And so think about all the great people that have innovated, right? Like they used their imagination. You walk around at Disney World, man, and you see all these quotes from Walt Disney, and it was just about what he believed could be possible in his mind. And then you walk around at this Disney resort property, so huge, right? And all these things are mind-blowing because of his imagination. And I think sometimes we just don't utilize it at all because we're just so used to what we know.
Right.
And I read a quote that said that reinvention is the willingness to march off the edge of the map. And my mentor used to call belief systems a map. And he was like, the maps are getting you from point A to point B, and you know that route so well. But at some point, it's like, what if you realize that you're walking from point A to point B, but you're using the wrong map? And I think sometimes this is what happens with our mindset. It's like it got us to a point, we memorize it, and then we just keep using the same kind of directions to get somewhere. But where it is that we really, really want to go is going to require some different direction. And it's going to require marching to a little bit of a beat of a different drum.
So we have these stereotypes of ourselves.
Yep.
I get angry easily. I'm not a morning person. You know, I'm just lazy by nature. It's just the way I am, or whatever it is. Negative stereotypes of ourselves, and you've got to use your imagination to release that and refine the image of yourself. Change begins in your mind, in your imagination, what you can be. And then we have refocus on the big picture. So these are some steps. These are practical steps. You've got to look. What are some of these negative stereotypes that I believe about myself? Use your imagination to refine the image of yourself and who you would like to be. And then you're going to refocus on the big picture. What does it mean to refocus on the big picture?
So easy to see what you see right in front of you and think that this is all there is.
Right.
So 2 days
You
ago,
and I both grew up in small towns, right? I think that's particularly like prudent in small towns. Like you look around, you're like, this is it, right? You gotta dream big. And a lot of people are like, I'm getting the hell out of here.
You want to dream big? I'm out. Watch this. I'm gone. But it you know what the phrase is? It's interesting you asked about that. I said it's the phrase of big fish in a small pond. And a lot of times people just want to be a big fish in a small pond. And I decided years ago, I got the first glimpse of a different city and going somewhere and seeing that there were maybe different things. And I went, wait a minute, I don't want to be a big fish in a small pond. I want to be a big fish in a big pond. And it is a really big pond.
Right.
And, you know, one of the first things that I ever did, I went to Australia and did one of the first trips to Australia. Now it's over, you know, when it's lunchtime in Australia, it's midnight back here in the States, right? Because it's a 12, 14-hour difference. And it was mind blowing to me, Jay, because guess what? I realized while other people are over there, you know, having lunch and out on the beach and playing volleyball and working and driving and riding their bike, people over here are asleep. Like, oh man, it's, you know, it's the end of the day and all that stuff. And it's like, well, wait a minute. It's very relative to where you're putting your focus, because these people over here are looking and going, hey, there's some sunlight and I can work and the day's not over. You know, and so it's very relative. And even people here get a kind of grasp of that. They're like, hey, the stock market opens at a certain time. Some people are sleeping past all that stuff. It's like when you're allow yourself to expand to big picture, you realize that what's right in front of you is not all that there is. And the world now, it's crazy. It's getting smaller because you can go on YouTube, type in a country, the name of a country, and you can watch videos of people touring and sightseeing in these countries. And you start to realize, man, it's a really, really big world. And when you get that, you're like, I want to grow into somebody that could be effective and make a difference and an impact on a big world, instead of being so uptight, thinking scarcity and lack, and there's never more because of all I see. And that's where, to me, that's what I meant. And I know you get it, but that's what I mean by a bigger picture is, you know, if you put your sights on something bigger and something greater, you kind of grow into that. And if you hold yourself to that standard of that. And so to me, man, when I started traveling and, you know, this was before YouTube and before the internet, the way that it is, it's like, I started seeing all these different places. I was like, man, it's a really big world and people don't necessarily think the way that I think and how my people I grew up around think, and different cultures and beliefs. And it was very exciting to me. And I think that, you know, when you allow yourself to reinvent, in a sense, your perspectives and look for new things, it is exciting. Like, it's a lot to see.
Yeah.
You know, you get bored, you know, you get bored seeing the same old thing all the time. And so that's kind of the big picture thing. And then it's going, okay, well, who could I become that could be and make an impact on, you know, the globe, on the world? It's like, think, you know, what do they say? Think globally, work locally. But it's using a bigger picture to kind of fuel your essence and give you a spirit of motivation to get things done.
And a stepping stone, a practical, you know, stepping stone that you could take while you're reinventing yourself, and using your imagination, is reorganize your habits.
Mm-hmm.
And habits are those stepping stones, either up or down the mountain, right?
Yeah. The habits become, we say, the routine that you have. It's your day to day. It's what you do consistently that you become permanently. And, Jay, people come to me and go, Ronnie, I want to do what you do. That's everybody, right? I want to go do what you do. I want to talk and get paid. I want to get, that's what they think it
I
is,
want
Jay.
people
It's
to
like,
pay me to come talk.
Yeah, I just want to. That's what I do, bud. When I go work with a big company, I just go sit down on a stool and talk. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot, It's like there's a being behind the doing, and the being part, the refinement of a habit, is really what creates more of the beingness of the essence of who we are. And so, if I'm always willing to become something more, I know I have to do something more. Like, you don't just sit around and become a great artist without painting. You don't just become a great musician without playing music. And so it's the habits of this. And in our society, we just get these snapshot billboard previews of who all these celebrity people are that, are overnight successes. But the truth is, dude, that nobody's really an overnight success.
Right.
No one. It takes a lot of work.
Recently, there was it was Kobe's, I believe it was his birthday. There was a lot of news remembering Kobe Bryant and Mamba mentality and everything. And I read this one short article about a coach that had worked with him. And Kobe had, the coach had been up late, I don't know, watching a movie or something. It's like 3:30, 3:45 in the morning. And he gets a call, and it's Kobe. He's like, hey, can you open a gym so I can go do a workout? The guy's like, oh, damn, I haven't even slept yet. He's like, sure, I'll meet over there at 4:30 in the morning, whatever it was. And then he proceeded to say, they did shots together, basketball shots, and then he went to the gym, and then they were doing wind sprints and all this other stuff. Kobe's like, other people started showing up. It was early still, and he kept working. I was like, all right, I'm going to go get a little bit of sleep. We're supposed to report at 11 a.m. And he comes back at 11 a.m. and Kobe was still working out. And he's like, you're still, like, have you taken a break on a breakfast? What? He's like, no. He's like, I make 800 shots, before every game, and I won't stop till I make 800 shots. So he done wind sprints, a workout, made 800 baskets, and it wasn't 11 a.m. yet. And the guy was just telling his story, and was just so blown away. And it's just like, it's such a simple example that we can understand really easily. If you want to be good at basketball, make 800 shots a day. Do your wind sprints, like strengthen your body, like eat smart, right? And then you could take that to a lot of different things in life. Like, I really want to be good at X, Y, Z, whatever it is. It's like, are your habits, are your daily and out habits going to take you there? Are you watching 4 hours of Netflix? That's not a habit. That's going to take you down your career path, most likely, unless you're studying directing or something. There's always exceptions. But, are you sleeping till 11 a.m.? What are you doing with your evenings? What are you doing? And I got asked on a live stream I was doing yesterday, should I quit this job because I'm starting a new company? And I said, that's a really broad question, not knowing the details of your situation. I said, but my knee-jerk reaction is keep your job and start your company on the side. People work 40, 50 hours a week on average. They don't understand there's another 40 or 50 hours a week you could put into your side hustle and build your side hustle into your full-time gig. But we waste so many hours doing fruitless things and just catering to habits that don't move us along. Then we wake up at 35 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, and say, why am I not where I wanted to be? Why am I not in the house or driving the car or whatever your goals are? Why am I not there? It starts with your habits. What did you do with those 6,000 hours over those years? When you were on the couch watching TV or doing whatever you do, maybe playing video games or whatever it is. Like, I'm not saying don't rest, but you better check your habits. You better look at, like, what am I doing and where are these habits going to take me in life?
Yeah, you have to, like, the rest part of it. So the rest is such a word that just gets beaten down. Like, it's like such a bad word to say when you're talking and listen to these young guys be like, you got to grind all day and all that stuff. Like, I'll tell you,
we've talked
Kobe,
about this before.
But Kobe busted his ass. He worked hard, but you know what? He knew how to rest.
Yep.
He knew how to take care of his body, right? And strategically, right? And so, I've heard a quote, I think it was like Eric Thomas, who said, don't quit, just reinvent. And it's like a lot of times we get bored and tired and, you want to quit it. So it's like, no, just reinvent your approach to it. And, like, for everybody listening, they're like, all right, this all sounds really, really good and all on the reinvention part. But I heard it said, it's this idea as a quote that where you are is an entry point to something different, like right here. Because some people will listen to this and be like, man, this is good stuff. I want to get my life turned around, but I don't know what to do. First thing you got to do is like right here where you stand is an entry point into the next level. If you're willing to make some adjustments to what you're doing. And if you'll make some adjustments to what you're doing, one small thing turns to something else. And it's kind of like the dominoes. And then over time, the time passes. This is what I think we need to recognize. I mean, how fast does time pass, Jason? I mean, you got kids, you know how fast it goes by, right? And time, it does. Time flies, but you're the pilot. You get to be the one that decides how the shit passes. I'm sorry, but it's like you get to decide. So for me, and then we're done. Let's move on to our next pillars.
Yep.
Let me tell you how this went in my world. Because people ask me, I mean, I get messed probably one a week, maybe twice a week. Ronnie, I'm interested in doing what you do. How'd you get started? I'm like, all right, cool. I'll tell you how I got started. Let me tell you. I'll tell you one thing I did. I took stuffed animals, went and got some stuffed animals, and I put them on my sofa. And when I started doing leadership development trainings and consulting, seminar stuff, all that stuff went out, there were scripts, anything that I needed to learn. You know what I did, Jay? I put stuffed animals on the sofa and I started talking to them. And I started imagining some of their questions and some of their resistance to my topics. And so it was like I was trying to help the teddy bear. I was trying to help, the stuffed animal get his life turned around. I tried to help Smokey the bear stop smoking. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, I was like, and am I having this dialogue? And Smokey's telling me, he's like, well, I can't because of this, whatever. And in my mind, I started rehearsing. The 800 shots for me was dealing with the resistance to a topic that I wanted to share. Like once you've set and decided debate on both sides, like if you hate somebody else because of their viewpoint, maybe you sit in their seat for a moment and start to understand their viewpoint, and then the hate and the energy goes away. Like resistance becomes very powerful. And so I sat there and talked to stuffed animals. That was me practicing the shots like Kobe. And then I had stuff down. I had the topic, the content down, the script down. I had it memorized. And then that way I could start to be more, I could finesse it a little bit better and go with what a group of people needed. But I had to do that work. If you don't do that work, then, you don't keep getting invited to the table.
Yeah. I have younger people ask me all the time, hey, I'm starting a gaming organization and, obviously you've been doing this a lot of years, how did you do it? Like, what's the trick? And I say thousands and thousands of hours of work. Like off hours, missing weekends, not going to the movies, like all these things. Like there's no shortcut. You got passion, check. You've got some business acumen, check. You got some gaming acumen, check. You've checked the boxes, great. Now do the work.
Yeah.
Like, there's no shortcut.
Wait,
really isn't.
Yeah, you got a dream, great. Get a work ethic. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm so excited for your dream, but do you have some work ethic to go with it? That's all I want to know. Because, anyway, take it to the grave. And on this idea of reinvention, it's the old saying, it's never too late to become what you could have been. Doesn't matter if you're 50. Somebody's on here is 50, 60 years old. You could still make some adjustments. You live another 20 years. It's like, where could you be in 20 more years? What could you learn? What could you share? What could you be? Do it's never too late. Just start. You don't know. Absolutely. You don't get to live a long life. So that's reinvention to me. That's why, and that was where I was at with reaching. If I want to reach for more, I have to be willing to let go of what maybe I've had and how I thought of myself. For sure.
All right. So we spent 23 minutes on R. Today we're talking about reach for better, and we just went over reinvent, which is a huge one. So let's move on to the E in reach, and that is expect better. Okay, you're going to reinvent yourself, and then you're going to expect better. First bullet point is hold yourself to higher standards. Second is you reap what you sow. Powerful, powerful stuff. Expect better of yourself. Expect better of life. Hold yourself to higher standards. Talk on that for a minute, Ron.
Yeah, I have to respect myself. And, we can talk about some of the arrogance and the stuff that many people with entitlement and all those things have. We're going to get there. But the idea that I have to learn to respect myself, which means I got to do things that are respectful. And so if I want respect from other people, I got to earn it. Right. And so for me, earning respect of somebody at a higher level, corporate level, people that have, much greater degrees than me and more education or whatever, I have to do the things to gain respect for myself. real respect. I'm talking true respect. And so that's where I say, okay, well, what are the right respectful things for me to do? And so that's setting a standard for myself within some of those daily habits. And it's being willing to do the finesses and the refinements between the lines when the spotlight's not on, when nobody's, asking me a question or inviting me to speak somewhere. It's the things in between that I then learn to respect myself. And so I have to set the standard for me, Jay. If I don't set it, like, am I thinking that somebody else is going to bang my door down one day and go, Ronnie Doss, this is what you have to do every single day for you to be successful? Like, the world doesn't care.
Yep.
Like, nobody cares. You can live your whole life and die, and the world doesn't care until you become, in a sense, a person that can add value to the world.
Yep.
And that's when people see that, right?
And
right.
I think when you talk about higher standard, I think it starts with the simple, and then you can move into the more practical, like work ethic or whatever. But when I'm trying to explain what character is to my kids, when I'm trying to explain what integrity is to my kids, and holding yourself to a higher standard, although none of us are perfect, for sure. I say, what decisions are you going to make when no one's looking? You got the old analogies of you find this money and you kind of know whose money it is, but no one's ever going to know who found it. There's no cameras or whatever. Like, what are you doing, and what decisions are you making when no one's watching? Because those decisions are going to grow. You reap what you sow into who you become, and you can apply character and integrity and those sorts of things to other standards, whether that be work ethic or whatever. But if you want to be successful, you want to grow, you want to reach better, you have to hold yourself to a higher standard. You can't be subject to the lowest common denominator. And it's really easy with today's social media and all the anger and all the hatred and just the nonstop flood of digital entertainment pumped into our houses to just become a zombie on the couch. You can't settle for that. You got to have a fire in your belly. You have to hold yourself to a higher standard. You have to, commit to being better.
Yeah. We talk about the expectations of others. It becomes like the sea of expectations, and you wound up drowning in it. And I think in our society, because everybody else is being bombarded with all this stuff that a lot of times they continue to allow in their life, television and internet and social media and the things, that their mindset tends to fall to that least common path of least resistance. And that's what everybody else is doing. So then you're around other people. I said this earlier today, a team that I was coaching. I said, look, guys, I said, if you hang around people that are skateboarders, you might not be a skateboarder, but at some point you might be like, maybe I should try skateboarding. If you hang around somebody that's a cowboy, rodeo person, you're like, maybe I should jump on a wild bull and ride the bull, whatever. Mm-hmm. You become like so many people that you hang around. And so many of our people in our society are being so bombarded with these things that this cause them to be complacent and mediocre and average and not push themselves to this higher standard in any way. It's easy to become like that because that's all we see. And, I think we kind of have to, in a sense, put ourselves in a bit of a bubble that kind of protects us from the casualness of others and the people in our society with the mindset. Like, I'm not going to hang around with people that are very negative. I don't hang around people that act like victims. I don't spend a lot of time with people that talk about poor me. I don't, because I know I'm going to become like that. Yep. And so, the idea for me is, in my life, here's a neat little quote. For me, I set agreements versus expectations, meaning like you can have all these expectations that one day your life's going to get better. But what I decided to do is I'm going to set some specific agreements that this is what Ronnie's going to do 4 days out of the week, 5 days out of the week. If it's exercise, right? If it's reading, if it's writing, if it's whatever, there's an agreement that I make with myself. And at that point, the expectation of me getting better is then into this tangible thing called an agreement. And I think your life tends to move forward in direct proportion to the agreements that you're willing to make and keep. And I think if you make some agreements with yourself based on what you believe with that big picture you could become, over time you start to become it. It's, it's a small progression. And agreements, there's nothing wrong with agreements, man. Like, I have friends who go into business with each other. You know what? We write out contracts. You know why? Because we're trying to protect the relationship from any monetary stuff or do whatever, because agreements can be very powerful. And, expectations and agreements, I think agreements are just as important. You got to keep your word. And so if I say, this is what Ronnie's going to do, I tell my daughters, you mentioned, kids and so forth, teaching them values. I tell my girls, I'm like, hey, you're doing school, they're starting to do school. It's like, hey, represent the Doss name. You're a Doss, you know that. And they're like, yeah. And it's like, what does Doss mean? I don't even know what my actual last name means in other language, but like to them, it's like Doss is a standard now. Doss is, you see it on things that it means something. Make your life mean something and make an agreement with yourself that you're going to do something habitually each day to get just a little better. And don't buy into all this bullshit stuff that everybody else is complaining about, that the world's so bad and we can't do anything about it. Yes, you can. You can do something about a bad world by being really good at what it is you do. And to me, I think that's so much of the expectation part from myself, turning it into that more of an agreement.
And I love the next one, you reap what you sow. Like we could do a whole show. And I actually wrote this down earlier. We were talking, when I get show ideas, I write them down. I wrote down protect your mind. I think we could do a whole show just on protecting your mind from just the crushing amount of information and Twitter and Instagram and news and Fox and CNN. I think we could do a whole show on that. And I think we could do a whole show on this one. You reap what you sow. We're only going to spend a minute on it right now. But I really think you could do a whole show on this. I'm a big believer, and I preach this in complexity, of doing your very best. It's impossible to have 100% success because it's not all dependent on you. But do your very best not to burn bridges.
Yeah.
Because even if you're parting ways with an employee or a player or a business relationship, if you do your best to do it professionally and with integrity and just transparency, and you try to treat them the best you can, you never know when they might come across that bridge at a time you just need them most.
That's right.
And in life, you like the good book says, man, you reap what you sow. Talk about that for a second.
Well, I think there's a couple of things, just the idea of the seed and so forth. But think about it. I know how many airplanes you've been on, Jay. A lot of them. But I've seen people. Yeah, no, me too. I've seen people that have put those memes out there, and they're like, the airlines are sending these emails out saying, "Hey, we're here for you." Yeah. And then they're like, well, where were you for me when my bag was 51 pounds, 1 pound over? You know what I'm saying? It's like at some point, hey, these things catch up to you, man. Yeah. And so it's like, be careful who you step on the way up, because you're probably going to see them if you have to fall back down. And sometimes we fall down and we mess up, we make mistakes, and we don't want to have burned the bridges. We don't want to have hurt people on our rise. Like, you do it well in a healthy way. You reap what you sow, and that you sow good stuff into people. It's everybody wants to be famous, you know what I mean? But it's something different to be really respected. And in our social media world, I heard a quote one time. The guy said, wouldn't it be sad to have everybody in the world like you, but the people closest to you not respect you? And I think if people are really going to respect you, they're going to respect that you're kind. That's what I've found in companies that I've been able to work with, some of the big ones, right? Like I've talked to people, these corporate team leads, and they're like, the people on our team, they're really kind. They get their job done, but they really encourage and bring a good energy to it. Like, those are the people that the team feels are most valuable. They're like the glue. It's not like somebody comes in and they're like, yeah, I'm going to run the show because I'm smarter. I got a PhD in the blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, nobody cares, man. It's like, nobody cares what's on your wall. People want to care what's on your heart. What's on your heart? Like, are you kind? You sowing good seeds? Are you respectful? Because you come around me, you disrespect one person on my team, somebody that I work with. I see you disrespect the server if we go to dinner. I see you disrespect somebody. It'll be the last time we sit together. It will. That's just that's how I am. And so the idea of sowing, and let me give you this. When you hold a seed in your hand, they say when you hold a seed, it's as big as it'll ever be. If you hold a seed in your hand, once you sow it, it's the smallest it'll ever be, because the seed you sow is going to grow. But if you hold on to it and you just keep it to yourself all the time, it's not going to grow. And so in your hand, it's as large as it'll ever be. But the moment you sow it right into something else, it's the smallest it'll ever be, because it's going to go bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you want to see people around you that are kind and getting things done, if you want to see people that are really innovative and using their mind to move the needle forward, then that's what you got to sow into. Don't expect other people around you to do things that you yourself aren't willing to do. I can't expect my wife to want to take care of the family if I don't want to take care of the family. I can't expect my wife to be kind to me, encourage me if I'm down, if I want to be kind and encourage her when she's having a rough day. Like, you reap what you sow.
That's right.
And if you know what I'm saying? And the old thing, I don't know if anybody's heard it, and we'll move through this, but you don't sow an apple seed and get oranges. Like this, the produce, the fruit is of like kind. And so whatever you're sowing, you're going to get like kind of result. So if you're sowing animosity, if you're sowing resentment, if you're sowing entitlement, you're sowing mediocrity, you're sowing hatred, guess what you're going to see more in your life?
Exactly.
More and more of that stuff. So the thing my mentor used to say is one of the quotes that rocked me years ago. He said, Ronnie, what is coming to you is coming from you. So if you see a bunch of crap coming to you, maybe you need to check on what's coming from you, meaning what seeds are you sowing? And that to me, I was like, all right, I'll change my life on that one idea. And it has. I'm not saying that bad things don't come to us, tough things, challenges, but if we really want to increase the odds of having better in our life, we got to sow better, Jay. It's simple. You got to sow better.
100%.
So, I'm going to spend too much time on that one, but that for sure
so
is a good one.
Again, just as a refresher, so we're all on the same page here. We're talking about reach for better. Reach is an acronym. Reinvent yourself. The second one is expect better. Hold yourself to a higher standard. Protect your mind. You reap what you sow. And we're going to wrap up E. Raise expectations for yourself. Lower them for others. Subnote disappointment. And again, this could be a whole episode, but we're only on E, so we got to keep moving here.
Yeah.
Raise expectations for yourself.
Yeah. It's in a book that I read, they talked about how we inflate our own virtues and inflate other people's faults.
Yes.
It's like we're good at inflating. And so it's like, if you're going to really come from this place of standard and expectations and so forth, it's like lower the expectation that you have of people, in that don't create impossible perfections. And anybody that's younger, let me say this to you. Don't think your parents were supposed to be perfect. I'm a parent. I don't know that I had a book. Nobody handed me a book on how to be a perfect dad.
Never took a class.
I didn't take a class. I mean, I'm killing it over here, Jay. I'm doing a good job. But come on, man. It's like nobody gives you the book. So you don't know. Nobody gave your parents the book. Maybe they were just doing the best they knew. And maybe they were dealing with something that you didn't know they were dealing with in their mind and their heart. You don't know traumas that went on for them. And so it's like, stop expecting this impossible perfection from your spouse, from your parents, from your friends, even yourself. You're not going to be perfect. And so when you lower, I think this is good. When you lower the expectations, everything else becomes a bonus. It's like it becomes a bonus. Things in life that come your way, it's like those are bonuses versus I have to have this. You need to give this to me. That entitlement stuff, right? Yeah. And so the expectation my mentor used to say, he'd say, you don't get disappointed by what you find. You only get disappointed by what you expected to find. And to me, I kind of live by, you know what I mean? I'm not going to be disappointed in you, Jack. I mean, like if you and I have an agreement, if we have an agreement, now that's a difference in expectation, and you don't keep it, then maybe I'm disappointed, but you know what? We're going to talk about it. You keep breaking an agreement with me, we're going to have a talk about it, because I love you enough and care about the relationship enough to talk about it, not attack you, but talk about it. And so that's one of the things as far as expectations, man, and why we lower in other people. People are a real gift, man. But if you're expecting people to be perfect all the time, dude, they're going to disappoint you every time, because nobody's perfect.
100%. You know, and then people become judgmental, and like we talked about when we were making the outline, it's, you know, don't throw rocks if you live in a glass house. We're so hard on other people and always want to just skip over our own faults and our own mistakes with the victim mentality, like, oh, well, I have an excuse, but this guy, he's just bad, you know, or that group, they're just evil. Well, you kind of did the same thing. Well, I had a reason, you know, it happened to me. So I like that a lot.
Yeah. And last thing, it's the saying that we judge other people based on their actions, and we judge ourselves based on our intentions, or how I intended to act. And so it's like, you know, everybody has this great idea for how everybody else is supposed to be, but they really don't know how they themselves should act. And so I don't worry so much about what other people are doing. I'm just looking at me going, okay, what do I need to do better here? How can I get better? And with the parenting thing, I will tell you guys this, because some of you listening, you don't have kids yet. Maybe you aren't married. Some of you do. But my daughter, Addison, who's 11, you wouldn't believe the times that I've sat down with her on her bed or sat down with her and said, hey, Addison, you do realize that Daddy's never done this before. And she's like, yeah, you know what I mean? And she's like, yeah, Daddy, I get it. And I'm like, do you trust that I'm doing the best that I can do? And she says, yeah. And in that, man, that's to me forging some stronger relationship with her, because
Honest.
I haven't done it before. It's honest, and I expect, and I know she's never been a 10-year-old before. She's never been an 11-year-old before.
Right.
And so, yes, there are agreements that we keep in the house. We do these things, and we surely aren't going to do that. But it's giving each other a bit of grace, instead of holding each other this high expectation. So anyway, that's a great topic, though, Jay. I mean, it's so important for everybody.
So reach for better. We are on the A, R-E-A, and it's approach. Approach the day with openness, anticipation, and humility. Beginner's mind. What does that mean?
Well, martial arts, dude, you start with any type of martial art, they gotta give you the white belt. And then they'll tell you, hey, you're a beginning here, And so if you put on the white belt, think about it. Like I was just saying with my daughter, Addison, I'm a dad, but I'm willing to put on the white belt and stop pretending like I already know everything and that I'm perfect, because that sets some sort of a standard for my kids to think they have to be perfect. And that's not going to work. So that winds up hurting everybody, hurting them. And so for me, the openness and the white belt of humility means that I get up every day and I'm grateful, while at the same time I'm aiming for greatness. I want to be great. I want to do better, but I'm just grateful for the opportunity. One of the keys, Jason, and I know you know this, goodness gracious, as much as anybody. Like, me getting invited to go to NASA and sitting at the table with some of those people, I'm like, hey, I'm just grateful to be here.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not walking in like, I know more than all of you. Like, no, I don't do that, right? So it's like, I'm grateful for a seat at the table. But I know with you also, like, think of the people that you're getting to meet and shake hands with. Like, you've done this work and these amazing things are happening. But I think so much of it, dude, is because of your heart. You're grateful for the opportunity. And I think when you're aiming at gratitude and you just decide, I don't need to project and always bow up and try to pretend to be something that I'm not.
Right.
I'm just really grateful for the fact that I woke up today and there's breath in my lungs, that I get to give it one more shot. And when you do that, and that's your approach, like a golfer hitting a golf ball down the fairway, it's like their approach toward the green. You know what you want to do. You know what the outcome is that you want to have. Yeah. But your approach to it is it's how you hold the club. It's the little finesses that you do. And I think for most of us, one of the biggest things in our world that's so missing is that people are grateful and they're humble and they're excited and live with some anticipation that today could be awesome. And if you come sit down at the table, you're excited to be here.
Yeah.
I want to be around that.
And we have on here, me too. We have on here, perfect segue. Arrogance is insecurity camouflaged. And I did an hour-long podcast with a reporter today, and he was very kind. And he's like, you've done this, you've built this, you've won this, this brand is known around the world, da-da-da-da. Like, what's next? And I'm like, I just want to keep learning. Like, we're talking about the design of our headquarters. I'm like, it's intentionally built and constructed and thought out so that we can keep learning. Because the day you feel in your heart, or at least you want to project, like, I am an expert and I know it all, to me, like, that's it. Like, you're done. As I get older, my goal is to try to stay humble, to try to stay away from arrogance and realize, like, I don't know it all. I will never know it all. And I'm not even close. That means I can learn. I can grow. I can evaluate my mistakes, be humble, and realize, look, I'm not perfect. I'm still making mistakes. I'm always going to make mistakes. I can be better. And I think that mindset and that attitude of humility propels you forward. I want to be, God willing, 75 years old, still learning. Like, still making advances, still pushing the envelope, still on the cutting edge. I think arrogance holds you back. If you're convincing yourself or so busy trying to convince others that you know it all and you're an expert and you're the best there is, you stop learning. You're spending all that energy trying to convince people you're the bomb when you should be trying to learn. It's slowly trying to improve and admitting your mistakes and owning them, and then moving on to do bigger and better things. And I love this line. Arrogance is insecurity camouflaged. It's so true.
It is, bud. Like, we could sit and talk about these things forever just because of where you and I have come from and what we've gone through to get at a place where things are working a lot better. And, humility is also knowing that, this could change overnight.
100%.
Like, think about it, man. Like, think of, like, my wife and I were talking about, like, school, like, the school that we're sending our girls to. It's really cool. I think they wear a uniform. And it's like, think about these companies that they design these uniforms and they manufacture these uniforms, and maybe they got their numbers are starting to, like, man, they're starting to get traction and the numbers are going up, and then COVID comes and schools aren't opening. And it's like, you worked so hard, and then all of a sudden something like this changes everything. And so you never know when things can change. And so I don't sit around pretending like I know what tomorrow is going to bring. I don't. I just know that I need to give the best to today. And some days I knock it out of the park. Other days I feel like I strike out. But for the majority of time, because I hold myself to the standard and do the agreement, I do pretty well. But man, it's like you just don't know. And so when you feel insecure, it's like, you start to act like you know everything.
Right.
People that are really have
Everybody
been
knows
around,
that know-it-all. You know what I mean?
everybody knows.
The
You
answer
can.
to everything.
Oh my God, you can smell
right.
it.
Yeah.
I can smell the insecurity in you when you act arrogant.
Yeah.
And so here's two things, man. Two things. One is it's a saying I read years ago, and it really hit me. It said, when most people are trying to be the teacher, it's because they're afraid of what happens if they allow themselves to be the student. And that is that, if you allow yourself to open up and learn a little something and not project yourself as the smartest one in the room, sometimes people are afraid of going, well, it might show everybody that I don't have it all figured out. And here's the deal. Nobody has it figured out. None of us do, man. Listen, Ronald Reagan, here's one. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Ronald Reagan before, but he was a president. I know there's some young people. He was a president. He was an actor. He became the governor of California. He became the president. You know what his quote was? He had this great quote, Jay. You know what he said? He said, I often think about what I could have become if I would have applied myself. And it was like, holy cow, dude, you became the leader of the free world in a way. And you're saying you could have applied yourself more. It was a very humble kind of thing. Like, oh my gosh, there was more I could have done for sure if I would have just, really applied myself. And I think a big part of applying yourself is saying, I'm not already all that. I can apply myself to see what I can grow into. I'm not the greatest artist in the world, so I don't pretend to be. I'll sit. Like, I've seen people, dude. There are people that I can promise you, like, even Kobe would get around. All these great ones would get around. You take Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a great, basketball player, put him around John Wooden. Their demeanor, dude, I promise you, these guys are like legends, athletes. You get them around somebody that coached them or a mentor. Even Mike Tyson, with the guy that was his mentor that when he was really young, they get around and they humble themselves very quickly because they're like, I know I probably wouldn't be who I am without this person. Right. And we need that, man. And that's why I think a relationship like with God, a spiritual person saying, hey, I'm going to humble myself because I didn't create this universe. And there's surely no way I could have created the human brain or the eye or all these things that are so complex. I'm going to operate with some humility here and stop pretending like I have to be the teacher. I'm going to slow my roll a bit and be the student. And, great quote, last one. John Maxwell used to say it like this. He'd say, if you're answering more questions than you're asking, your leadership and influence are already on the decline. And it's true. You know what I mean? So I've always just wanted to keep asking questions, bud. And that's a bit of humility, I think, for all of us. I know you are, man. You got such a great spirit. It's cool. It's cool to see. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think to be a successful leader, I think to be able to lead people, it's very important that you hire talented people and then you let them know you are better at what you do than me. So I'm going to empower you and I'm going to trust your judgment because, say, if I hire an accountant, right, and we got a big tax issue, I'm not going to pretend, well, I'm the CEO, I'll tell you how to handle this. Because I don't know all the nuances of the recent tax law. I don't have time. Frankly, I don't care. I mean, at a certain level, that's why I have a talented accountant. And I'm happy to admit, it's an extreme example, but I'm happy to admit, hey, I don't know. And I'm trusting you and your role. And then you have all these different roles in your company. I always compare it to, conducting an orchestra. I don't know how to play a tuba. I don't know how to play the bass drum super well, but I'm going to bring on talented people that do, and then I'm going to try to empower them, encourage them, mentor them, and lead them so they can play their instruments. We're all going to make beautiful music together. But just because I'm the guy at the front of the room waving my hands or I'm the CEO doesn't mean I know it all. And I will come out and tell you I don't know it all.
Straight up.
And I think I just think that's leadership. But let's keep moving. We got R, E, A, we got C, and H left. C is communicate well, starting with self-talk, confronting your inner darkness, and the cost of casual communication.
Yeah. So
Communicate well.
communication.
Reach, R-E-A-C.
What if, like, if you hang around, people that are really, some of the biggest influencers I've been around, guys that really have a global reach on things, like, some of them are the kindest, most humble people in the world. They're great encouragers, right? And so if you think about it, you're like, these people that are really kind and so forth, would you talk to a friend, somebody you really respected or looked up to? Would you talk to a friend the way you talk to yourself? And if the answer is no, then maybe you need to change how you talk to you, And so communicating well, there's an old John Wooden quote. He said, if you talk to your team, you can keep them together. He said, but if you talk to them well, you can win the championships. And I want to win championships in whatever it is that I've set out to do for me. And so I know it's going to require me speaking well to myself. I can't let the negative voice of who it is that I used to be, or what interpretation of some story I created back when I was a teenager and I didn't get my way. I can't let that interpretation and the voice that comes from that interpretation keep running me all day, every day, because I'm going to miss the mark, man. And I don't want to miss, And so I know that words are powerful, and they can do. Jason, listen, you can say something. Somebody needs to hear this. And before you speak to your family, your mom, dad, cousin, friends, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever it is, boss, coworker, wife, husband, whatever it is, before you do that, realize that you can say something in one moment that can destroy the trust you built over years and years. Words are that powerful, and they stick sometimes for a lifetime. And so words don't really cost anything to speak, but they can cost you everything once they're said.
Yep.
And so you got to be real cautious of what you say and how you say it. And, Jim Rohn used to do this thing. He was one of these old school guys I listened to. He passed away now, but he used to say words, they're so important how you communicate. He said, it's like saying to somebody, what's wrong with you? When in your mind, what you're thinking is what's bothering you, but you're saying, what's wrong with you? You're thinking something,
Right.
but it comes out different. And so you wind up doing damage to somebody because you didn't package your words well. And communicating well is one of the best ways I think that we can continue to reach for another level. It's like you're not going to dog somebody out right before they're getting ready to walk into the biggest interview of their life. You're not going to talk to one of your players like he's a piece of crap, or her, if she's a piece of crap right before she's getting ready to play a big game. You don't do that. And so every day is a part of a game, Jay. Like you're playing this game called life. And if you want to play it well, you got to use your words really, really well to build yourself up versus tearing yourself or those around you down.
So C and reach is communicate well both to yourself internally and to others in the relationships that you have. And you have to acknowledge and understand how important, how unbelievably important communication is, both with your self-talk, and we've touched on that in a previous episode, and the words you use with other people.
And there's a quote by Rumi, and if you guys, Rumi the poet, just his words were so rich, but he always said, raise your words, never your voice. Because if I have to raise my voice and yell, it means maybe I haven't thought out the words very well. Because you can whisper wisdom to somebody and it sticks. You don't have to scream and yell and, oh my God, this is what you need to do. It's like, okay. But if somebody has some wisdom and they share it in a very grounded and humble, as we were talking about, and kind and compassionate way, the words can really make a huge positive impact. And so I just think that all of us, we need to look at, like, anybody listening to this, when we say communicate well, be careful what you're putting on social media. Don't dog people out. They just might be having a tough day. Don't become part of the problem. If you don't watch your words, watch your attitude, you go from seeing the problem to being the problem. And you think that you're going to fight hate with hate and anger with anger and all this. And all you do is fuel more and more of the problem. And so I would just say we need to be more careful. We just need to be more careful, especially with our words. Because you know what? The right word, man, you say the right word at the right time, make somebody feel good, help them to feel better. Dude, you just don't know the difference that can make in a lifetime with somebody that you judged and you hated, that you could have spoken something ugly to. You take a moment, take a deep breath and speak some positive life. Man, you can find that the relationship that at first you judged could be one of the best ones you've ever had in your life. you know? And I was telling somebody yesterday, it's like, you know, you drive by the graveyard and the old cliche, you know, leadership, personal development quote is that the graveyard is full of unfulfilled dreams. And what I thought to myself was the graveyard's full of unspoken life, because you can speak life and the idea can carry itself. Martin Luther King spoke an idea, his dream, and it was carried on long after he was dead. He spoke those words. And words are meant to be felt. They're not just meant to be heard, Jay.
Yep.
So when you have something that comes from your heart and you speak words, good words, better things happen.
Yeah.
So
if you want to reach for better, you have to remember to communicate well. The way you talk to yourself and the way you talk to others.
Can I say this too, man? I know we're pretty good on time. We've done okay. You know, when you speak, like you walk into a room and there's been an argument, you can feel some tension in the air, man.
Heck yes.
It's crazy. So words create an atmosphere. So here's what I know. As you speak good words, you create a cocoon. Like if you look at the spider, the Bible, it's in Proverbs, Bible talks about the spider. It says, consider the spider. And it's that the spider builds his home out of his abdomen, like the web, right? And that's what he lives in. It catches his prey. It protects him, right? The spider. And it's like the same way as with us. From these deep parts of ourselves, we speak. And so we want to resolve things within us and speak well to help resolve things in us. And so as we speak better, it creates this cocoon like the caterpillar to become the butterfly. It's a real analogy. That's how I see my words. It's like I'm trying to create a cocoon around me so I can grow into something better and take flight, be a little better than I was. I'm not going to keep talking down to myself. And that's something I think that's really worth considering. And when you speak, Jay, every time you talk, you hear yourself internally and externally. You hear it. So when you speak it, you hear it. And so it's like playing they tell addicts, people that are heavy addicts that have come out of rehab and so forth, they're like, don't listen to hardcore heavy metal rock. Don't listen to some of these songs that are negative, I'll rip my head off or killed or whatever. And it's like, don't listen to that, because words fuel a beingness. And so communicating well with ourselves and other people, it does create space around us. And I think that's just one of the things that if we really want to get to that next level and reach for it and do well, we got to learn to do, man. We got to talk well. So
powerful stuff. 100%.
I think so, man. I think 100%. It is for sure.
And we're on to the H. We have reached the end of our acronym, R.E.A.C.H. Reach better. Honor yourself and others. Understand it's a process. Handle yourself with care and handle others with care. The word honor, once again, we could easily do a couple hours just on honor. What is the basis of the word honor without going too long?
Honor
handling yourself and others with care. Honoring yourself, honoring others. What does that mean?
So Jay, so somebody comes to work with you, complexity, right? Like they come in, they're part of their team. When they honor the seat that they sit in, the space, the job they got, they're grateful for it, right? So we talk about that. It's like some people complain about their job. It's like, hey, fool, there are people out there that would kill to have your job. Yep. We're right now just a paycheck to take care of their family. They got kids that they think are going to go hungry. Like, so, honor the fact that you get a paycheck. Start there, right? Somebody comes to be a part of the team, honor the other team. Maybe somebody knows something you don't know. You don't have to come in proving yourself so much, sit and learn. Honor, that's kind of the context, but honor becomes the tide that raises all the ships.
Yeah.
And it does. And if you want the team to go higher, you want your family to go higher, you got to bring something that is so missing in the world. Like if you want to make a difference and you want to be seen, bring something different to the table. Because if everybody's bringing entitlement and mediocrity, all it takes is one person to show up and operate with excellence and humility. And you go, that person's different. I want them around me. That's what I want around me. Because, I can train this skill, but the attitude part now, I don't know that I can train that quite as well. I'll take somebody that's honoring and humble and kind and excited to be there. And so honoring of other people and handling yourself with care is like, look, don't try to speed this thing up so fast that you just spread yourself so thin that you just don't care for you. And I saw this thing the other day that we're a lot like pottery. If we squeeze ourselves too tight, eventually we break. And when you start to honor yourself, you start to handle like pottery or china, you very delicately, like, oh goodness, when you treat yourself that way, I'm going to hold myself to a higher standard. but I'm not going to be mean to me. You know,
Right.
Buddha said it. It's like, you have to get that above all else, you deserve love too. You got to recognize that. In the Christian faith, sometimes we're so much like people that would say Christians is like, well, love your neighbor as yourself. That means I got to be kinder to my neighbor than me. Like if I'm going to be anything, I got to love them. But it's true. But it's hard to pour out love and compassion if you haven't allowed it to sit within you. And the light's supposed to come to you and through you. You have to work to be healed also, so you can provide healing to other people. And if I want to be on a team, and I know other people have issues, and they do, because we're all human beings dealing with the human condition. When I recognize that, I go, you know what? I can honor these people. And as I learn to honor other people, it's like, well, what do I need to do to honor me?
Yeah.
You know, I need to take care of this vessel so I can help take care of other people. And
Yep.
I'm kinder to me than I've ever been now, Jay. And I'm older than I've ever been, just like everybody on here. I'm learning to be kinder to me.
Yeah.
You know?
And it all weaves together perfectly. You know, expect better, you know, talk to yourself better, honor yourself, talk to others better, honor other people, you know. And just a quick example of what I've learned, you know, I was in a meeting one time where one of my top people had kind of disagreed with me, and I felt that he'd messed up the situation, and I dressed him down a little bit in front of the leadership meeting. And later he came to me, he's like, you know, I kind of did mess that up, and you were right, but I wish you just would have pulled me aside instead of dressing me down in front of the whole thing. And that was a lesson that I learned, where you can address the mistake without dishonoring and demeaning and dressing somebody down. You know, and trying to honor people and trying to treat them right in all aspects of your life is incredibly, incredibly important. So, you know, I think the H, being honor, is a powerful one.
Yeah, praise, it's the old saying. It's like praise in public, criticize in private. And the criticize doesn't mean like going gossiping. It's like, if you have something to say, pull somebody to the side, you know, speak that. I was on my back patio. I'll never forget this, a few years ago, Jay. It's my daughter Addison, who I mentioned. She's 11 now. And I was doing something with a screwdriver, or hit something. It was either a hammer or screwdriver, and I dropped it. And I was like, idiot, right? Like I said that to myself, right? You know, you say it sometimes like idiot, right? I said idiot. My daughter Addison, I'll never forget this, Jay. I'll never forget how she looked when she looked at me. She said, hey. I said, yeah. She said, don't talk to my dad like that.
My gosh. That's cool.
I said, dude. Done.
That is cool.
I'm done. I was like, good point. Good point.
From the mouth
Don't
of
talk
babes.
to me. That's right, baby. It's like, that's it. And you know, you can't teach these things and not allow them to permeate your being. And so if I'm speaking love and compassion and honor and wanting the world to get better, I have to allow those principles and those values to permeate my being. And this is how we become something better for this planet. And I'm telling you, the planet is going to continue on long past the next elections. It's going to continue on through the generations that are to come, and our families and the principles and the values. And if we're reaching for that, dude, if we're reaching for that, I think we're doing well, man.
I think
we're
so
doing
too.
well. So,
I think so too. And I hope the reach for better acronym R.E.A.C.H is helping you guys. Again, I want to reiterate, people that are following along with this series, how much we appreciate you viewing. And I want to reiterate, you know, Ronnie and I are a little older than most people that are probably going to watch this, but we don't pretend to know everything. People always come to me in the gaming industry and ask advice, like I've mentioned this a couple times, and it's just heavy on my heart to try to share some advice. And I couldn't think of anyone better in the world to do it with than my friend Ronnie. You know, if we can help a few people in the gaming community, that's the point of the show. We can help you rewire your mind and how you think about things and how you approach things. That's what we're set out to do. So we appreciate you watching. You can check us out on my Twitch, where we film this live. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought of the episode. Click the subscribe button. Let us know what else you'd like us to talk about, because we do care about your opinions. But for now, we're going to go into the after show on the live Twitch stream. For everyone on YouTube, thank you very much for watching. We do appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.
I hope our fans are ready for a wild ride. Juggernaut or not, we're here to kick some ass.
If you say you just can't take any more, all you're really saying is I just don't want to go any higher.
Failure is not the opposite of success. It's only part of it.
and you kept fighting and you kept fighting and you kept fighting. That's all I ask from you guys ever.